economic crash, an EMP, war. I always say don't bug out unless your life depends on it. Trust me, in these situations, your life will depend on it. But you have to have a plan. You can't just go off crazy and hope you'll survive. You won't. Some of that plan obviously includes things like food, water, and shelter, but it goes beyond that, because understand that as you leave, you're not going to be the only one leaving. 250 million people in the United States alone live in densely populated areas. How about you? Do you live in one of these white lit up spots in this country? And if so, welcome to the rat race as everybody's trying to flee in these catastrophic situations. And one of the things you obviously have to consider is your destination. Where are you going to go? And what's going to get you there? Because understand that if you're in a city and you find a place that's maybe just like one gas tank away from where you live, well, that one gas tank's not going to hold up for you, because understand that everybody's going to be on the highways. It's going to be a massive traffic jam. And gas stations, you cannot count on them being open. So considering having some kind of bug out vehicle, your regular car obviously will work just fine, put some tubs and off you go, but have extra gas cans just in case. Now, if that situation does happen and you can't drive your car and you're gonna have to go on foot, well, how long is it gonna take you to get to this location? So either by foot or you maybe have a bicycle. Obviously you wanna have a destination that's far away from those populated areas, but close enough that you could still walk to within a matter of what, 2 or 3 days, maybe a couple more. Obviously you don't want to have your destination being all the way across the country. So ultimately isolation is key. And I'm not saying you have to be completely alone. In fact, there is safety in numbers, but the people with you better be people you trust, family, close friends, etc. And obviously the woods is a good option. I always say to people, romanticize going out in the woods and just living off the woods. And honestly, there's some people on this channel, I'm sure, who are incredibly skilled at surviving in the woods. However, I would imagine the majority of the people on this channel are not that way. And when I speak to you, you need to consider that, you know, that camping trip that you had 10 years ago when you're out in the woods, you took your grocery store supplies with you, and you brought your water with you, and you're probably within a day's drive of the grocery store. All that stuff's going to be gone. So in the woods, you do have to think about the main essentials like shelter, food, and water. Honestly, shelter in the woods is not anything that's a serious concern. There's lots of things out here you can do to build a shelter, and off you go. Or even just have a tent, obviously. Having a tent's very handy in this situation. Food and water, that's a different story. A lot of times up in the forest, you may have to really scout out and try to find the streams, try to find a river. And food, that's probably going to be your number one difficult thing. Now, I'm not saying the woods, this is our property by the way, I'm not saying the woods isn't full of food. It is, there's tons of food, but you have to know how to look. And a lot of people think, oh, you know what? I'm just going to hunt and fish. I'm with you, that sounds great, doesn't it? But remember, 250 million people heading out into the woods per se. Hunting is gonna get pretty scarce. And your favorite fishing spot is now going to become the favorite fishing spot for most people. And I think we're already seeing a lot of problems as far as not having a lot of fish out in the wilderness anyway. What's it going to be like? I mean, we have deer everywhere here, but I can imagine the deer and even like small animals disappearing quickly. Foraging works great, but you really have to know how to forage. Do you know how to forage? Have you actually gone through books and gone out in the woods and tried to find mushrooms and things to eat? It's here. There's lots of things you can eat, but it definitely takes time and practice. Have you mastered those things? Another option, which you probably considered, is a camper. It's great because it's a self-contained unit, has 12-volt power, works great with, you having solar panels and stuff to it. I mean, you don't have to have like a Goliath like this one, but having some kind of camper can work very well. Now, question is, obviously, the first thing is, where do you put the camper? You might want to consider trying to make some friends. All you lone wolves out there, no, try to make some friends. And if you live in the city, talk to them and say, listen, I know you own a farm. I know you own some acres out in the middle of nowhere. Can I put my camper there? And I'm not even talking about, by the way, when crap hits the fan. Your camper should already be there, because remember I talked about as far as not having enough gas to get out of the city. Having your camper there, in exchange, as I said, there's safety in numbers. You can work together. You can try to help protect each other. And security is a big issue, by the way. People get very fearful. And if somebody has some property out in the middle of nowhere, we have property out in the middle of nowhere. And if I had some close friends said, can I come here? I would say, absolutely. Now, there's no free rides. You're going to share in the chores. And when you come, you're going to bring as much food and weapons and everything you possibly have. But safety in numbers, and it actually gives you rest assurance knowing that you're not going to go through this cataclysm all alone. So find a friend who has a farm, some woods, some acreage, whatever the case may be, and put your camper there. And obviously right now this camper sitting here like this works well. People drive up and down, can see our camper. You'll want to camouflage it. And I know you like your nice little weekend getaway camper, but get that camouflage spray paint out, some netting, put it over it, and start setting up security. So that way, you know what, here's the situation. You know, when this happens, people have drive by and said, I've been seeing that camper out in the middle of the woods there. Maybe we should go up to that camper. You don't want people to know that camper's there. You don't want to let people know that's going to be your bug out location. But you'd be amazed how many friends who have property that would probably let you stay. And again, work as far as sharing goes, work in the crops, work in security. And that is actually nice to know because there's a lot of really good people out there. And that's, of course, what we try to cater to on Goshen Prepping are people, the good people. There's a lot of them. And we need to stick together in these situations. Last notes. So you found a place. You're out in the woods. Maybe it's friends' property, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's state lands, federal lands. Think about that because if we're talking about an economic collapse, EMP, everything goes down, I don't think you're going to have a lot of forest rangers out in the woods making sure people aren't living out there. They're not going to be able to stop them. There's going to be too many. So find whatever place you think is going to be the best for you to go to. And here you are in the woods. Start preparing now. And again, if it's a friend's property, just ask about the situation. They can help you out with this. Start taking your food. Get some food grade buckets and start burying it in the ground. Start putting everything there while you can. Now, I'm not saying you have to put it out where people are going to find it and see it. That's obviously a bad situation. But instead, bury it, conceal it, do whatever you need to, so that way when that time comes, and oh my gosh, hopefully that time never comes, you'll be able to come and at least have a leg up compared to the other 250 million people who are trying to vie for that best spot. See what I'm saying? All right, so anyways, lots of food for thought, lots of things to think about, lots of things to prepare for, because again, bugging out in this situation, this is the worst of the worst nightmares. And as far as Goshen prepping goes, we want to be able to survive. Thanks for watching.